All right, here's our day one video notes for parabolas. You also want to have nearby this formula sheet that we got in class. And I also strongly recommend that you watch the YouTube video that I found on parabolas that I posted in your stream announcement for today. So before I start this lesson, I will have assumed that you watched that video and are familiar with the basic features of a parabola. So these formulas here for the standard equations are also here on your formula sheet. One thing I want you to add on your formula sheet is that, so here's the section for parabolas, and this column is for parabolas that are opening up or down, and they on the vertical axis, and the identifying feature of those is that on this left-hand side of the equation we have the x squared. If your equation has the y value squared, that is going to be oriented on the horizontal axis and it's going to be opening left or right. So it'll look like this or like this, and facing up, opening up looks like that, and opening down looks like that. So over here, we are going to be given an equation and we're going to be following these steps, identifying this information in order to graph it over here. So the vertex is going to be our HK value from the general form or the standard equation formula. The opening means, so this is asking us to find, is it going up, down, or opening left to right? And this is where we're going to solve for P by setting 4P equal to whatever number is in that 4P position on our equation, which I'll explain more when we work the problems. And then whatever value you get for P, if it gives you a positive value, your graph is opening up or to the right, depending if it's a horizontal or vertical orientation. And if you get a negative value, it's going to be going down or left, again, depending on if it's vertical or horizontal orientation. For focus, directrix, and axis of symmetry, we're going to be referring to your formula sheet. And I actually want to add an extra step here. So I don't want step 6 to be graph. I want step 6 to be find width. And that is going to be 2 times the absolute value of P, and that is going to give you the distance on either side of the focus. So distance from focus, and then the last step is going to be to graph. All right, so we're going to do all those steps for this first problem. X squared equals 8y. So the first thing is to identify the vertex. Now, this is not in standard form, but if I rewrite it like this, right, it is in standard form. So my h would be 0 and my k would be 0. Oh, and the first thing I also want to point out that since this is an x squared on the left, we know that this is going to be a vertical orientation, and the graph is either going to be opening up or opening down. So from here I can tell that my vertex is at 0, 0. This is my h, this is my k. And I'm going to go ahead and graph that right here. And then in step 2, we're going to figure out what P is and use that for figuring out which way it opens. So here is my standard form. If you remember, the general standard form is this. So if you notice, in the general form we have 4P, and in our specific equation right here we have an 8 in that situation. And if you want to see this formula on your formula sheet, it is right here. We have the axis of symmetry formula, the vertex formula, the focus, the directrix. And you'll see here it says if P is greater than 0, or meaning positive, it opens up, P is less than 0, meaning negative, it's going to open down. So we also want to know specifically what the value of P is. So notice that 8 and 4P are in the same position in front of the parentheses. That means they are equal to each other because they can substitute for each other. So I'm going to actually literally set up an equation that says they're equal, and then I'm going to solve for P, and that gives me 2. I'm going to use this value 2 later in the problem, but for right now what I care about is that it's positive, and that means my graph is going to be opening up. So then we'll have a focus inside here, my vertex here, and the directrix line is going to be on the outside there. All right, step 3 is to find the directrix. If you're using your formula from the front, or sorry, from your formula chart, it's going to be, oh, I'm sorry, we're doing focus here. My bad. The focus formula is H and then K plus whatever P was. So our H was 0, our K was 0, P is 2. So we have this point at 0, 2. You'll also, so this, what's happening is we're just adding 2 in the vertical direction to our vertex, and that's going to give me our focus. The directrix is 2 in the opposite direction. So our directrix is going to be here. And we're going to do that mathematically using the formula, and you'll see how we get the same thing. So here's the formula from your formula sheet. Y equals K minus P. So Y equals K, which was 0, minus P, which was 2. So Y equals negative 2. That is the equation of a horizontal line where all the Y values are negative 2. The axis of symmetry, so right here where I just sketched what we were what our goal was for our shape, the axis of symmetry divides the shape into 2 symmetrical halves. And you'll notice now that's a vertical line that goes through the vertex and the focus. So a vertical line is written as x equals, and then x is equal to 0 everywhere on this line. So that's the equation. If you were using your formula from your formula sheet, the axis of symmetry is x equals h, and our h value was 0. Now we're going to find the width of the parabola, because I know that I'm graphing something like this, but I don't really know how wide or narrow the graph is. So here's what we can use, a counting pattern, to find that information. So we know that P is 2. And so here's my vertex. So I went up 2 for my focus, down 2 for my directrix. If you double that value and count left and right from your focus, so 1, 2, 3, 4, so double my P is 4 that way and 4 this way. That is the width of our parabola. Now mathematically what we're doing is taking 2 times the absolute value of whatever P was. Remember that absolute value means the distance of 0, and that's from 0, and that's always going to give you a positive value. So we have the absolute value of our P, absolute value of 2 is 2, double that and gives us 4. So that's my width this way and my width that way. And there is our parabola. Now I want you to pause the video, and on the back of this sheet, I want you to skip this first one. We'll come back to that one in a second. I want you to go here and do this one. You see that gives me an x squared. So that's also going to be a vertically oriented parabola. So pause the video and try this problem by yourself. Okay, here is my work for that problem. So if you want to pause the video, check all of your values with mine, check your graph, and then come back for the next problem. All right, so now we are going to, so we've done this one. So now we're going to do this one. And this is a horizontal oriented one. I know because this is now a y squared here. So I want to look at the general form for this one from your formula sheet, how it's changed from the up and down oriented parabolas, the vertically oriented. So in the problems we just did, we had x minus h squared on the left and the y minus k on the right. Now our y minus k is squared on the left and our x minus h is on the right. So h will always be coupled with x and k will always be coupled with y. So now here we have the y is going to be squared, and that's our clue that these parabolas are going to be opening either to the right or to the left on the horizontal axis. So we're just going to go through our steps, and I'm going to write the general form up here so it's an easy comparison to the specific one. So the first thing is to figure out the vertex, which is always going to be hk. But this time h is on the right side of the equation, and it is a 1. And k is on the left side. We're going to take the opposite of that, which is a -2. So I'm going to graph 1, -2 here. All right, second thing is to find the opening. That's where we are letting 4p equal whatever number is in front of the parentheses on the right. So 12 is in the place of 4p because they're equal to each other. So 4p equals 12. That means p is 3. It's positive. This is a horizontal orientation. That means this is opening to the right. So if I have a parabola opening to the right, I'm going to have a focus here and my directrix here. So that's our goal, to get something that looks like that. Then we want to find our focus. If you're looking at your formula sheet, it's whatever h was plus our p value. So our h was 1 plus our p is 3, and then the k remains unchanged. So this is 4, -2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, -2. So notice this is our p-value, 1, 2, 3. If I go that in the other direction, 1, 2, 3, that's going to be my directrix. So you'll notice that's my formula for directrix 8. Miss Fadia's talks, take 2. X equals h minus p. Well, h was 1 minus my p-value, which is 3. So x equals -2. So that is how you write the equation of a vertical line. X equals a number. Then our axis of symmetry. So remember, this is my focus and vertex, the axis of symmetry. So my parabola is facing this way, so my axis of symmetry goes through the middle there. So that's a horizontal line. That's going to be y equals whatever the y value here is, which is -2. So y equals k. K was -2. And then we need to find the width from the focus. So that is 2 times the absolute value of whatever p was. Absolute value of 3 is 3 times 2 is 6. So the way we're going to do that, so before we were counting left to right from the focus, now we're counting up and down. So up 6 and down. Either direction of the focus. Here's my vertex. And there is my parabola shape right there. So we went p this way, that was 3. This way was 3. And twice p this way, and twice p that way. So you pause the video and do that very last problem. Oh, sorry, you didn't see that. Here's my vertex. I did 3 this way for the focus, 3 this way for the directrix. That's my p-value. And then twice p up from the focus and twice p down from the focus, and drew my parabola. So you pause the video and do this very last problem at the bottom, and then come back and check your work with mine. All right, and here is my work for that last problem, and we are done with the video.